Sarphatie black jewelry. I know I stand out, I don't need to try for it. I jack the limelight as you, I'm thinking head quick. I tell them catch me if you can on some gingerbread. Oh, I never ride solo. It's me and my chick looking like slow-mo.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Vince down in Tampa. I got Esther on again. Esther was on our original show. Now we're on to talk about her new book. And her new book is about how to date. And let me put it up real quick. And it's a guide to, how you find love and love in all the right places and not the wrong place. But kind of how do you communicate with people and how do you not read into things? Because in today's society, in the 21st century, we are so quick to manipulate our own mind when we're talking to people and assume things that we're talking to someone in a relationship that that's not accurate because we never ask them the right questions sometimes. So sometimes we got to get out of our own heads. And with that being said, Esther, how you doing?
I'm so happy to be back. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm so excited to talk about my book because I don't have so many opportunities to talk about it with others.
Hey, but that's all right because we're going to get after
because
it.
I'm afraid people don't want to hear what I have to say because it's sometimes, the truth is not easy to digest sometimes. So I keep my mouth shut.
No. So let's find out about that. 1 second here. Let's find out.
Because you don't really believe that you're worthy of true love. And when you don't see your self-worth, how can anybody else see it? The second reason why dating is so difficult is that it's easier to blame the location where you live or to blame society or to blame anybody else than yourself. And yes, it's scary to put yourself out there, but are you really taking the right steps? Think about what kind of man you want to meet and what kind of woman that man would want to have next to him. In your life, are you actually showing up as that woman? Because if you want a man who is always busy with improving himself, who knows how to take care of himself, then you must become that woman who has the same kind of ingredients, because like always attracts like. But the most important thing for you to attract this man is first of all to have certainty that he's out there, he's on his way to find you. And that means that you have to change your mindset. Because if you keep repeating the same story to yourself, that dating is so difficult and that there are no good men out there anymore, what you will get is a difficult dating life and no good men. Because in life, you don't get what you want, but you get what you are as a person. Dating is so difficult.
And wow. And that's so true in so many ways. So
well, that's an example of the harsh truth that people find it hard to listen to. But my mission is to still get my message out there, because if you don't say it as it is, people cannot learn and we cannot find that happiness if we don't know the real source of the issue.
Yeah, and so you touched on your guide to do love right. And so let's get into that book because there's a critical piece. You're talking about when you were a little girl and about your perceptions and about how you saw things when it came to relationships and how, you relate that to now. So what was that impact as a little girl that kind of got you to where you're at today when you think about dating back then when you saw husband and wife couples, or you saw people being married 50, 30 years. And now the average marriage is like 7 years, 10 years.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? So the truth is that why I think that people were able to keep their marriage going, we have many answers to that, right? One of the simple answer is that it was not a good idea to divorce because it wasn't accepted by society in many countries, okay? Right. Or people were still very religious and the church wouldn't allow you to divorce. So very often people did stay in relationships in which they were not happy at all. But okay, we called them marriages that were sustainable, let's say. But right. It was also true that people were, I think, more clear about their role in society. And this, in a way, helps you very much with how you present yourself and also with what to expect from somebody else, right? As a woman, you knew what you had to deliver, let's say. And as a man knew what role he should play. So it was much easier to get on good terms with each other because both roles were very clear. Now it's a big mess because now we just do whatever we want. And right. As I told you in our first talk, if I remember well, is that the ones who have changed so much are the women. And now we've entered a phase since like, I think 10, 20 years that
Yeah,
men are
about 20.
actually 10, 20 years that men are actually becoming very reactive to how women have turned out, because men have realized as well now, like, wait a minute, what is going on here, you know? So I think that we have such wrong expectations from each other nowadays, and that's one of the issues. I don't think that we are communicating right now in the right
Right.
way, because we have um, lost our identity. You know, we don't know anymore what our role is in society. It depends. Every woman chooses what she wants for herself, and it can change. Within 2 years, she can want something different, and a man just has to adjust to that. And men don't want to do that anymore.
Right, but I mean, but most men don't want to adjust. I think is because maybe social media or their friends, like, and I can speak from the man side of the fence line, is that most men are resource driven, right? So we've
Yeah.
actually built a society, and I'm going to do a disclaimer here, and I understand why we are where we're at, because in the 1970s, late 60s and 70s, we're paying for the sins of our fathers, as I call it. Those guys didn't pay child support. Those guys were, the term would be deadbeat dads, or the women made the situation so unbearable that they never saw their kids because they were fighting back and forth over the kids. So fast forward to 20 years later, or almost, to a 30-year mark of feminism and whatever, is that laws were put in place to actually not, to people say to destroy the family. I don't say it's to destroy the family. It was actually put in place to hold people accountable for their roles of our society. However, the rules were over the top because we overcorrected. So now we have a lot of issues. So when you look at it now in relationships, what advantages do men have? What advantages does a man have in marriage today in Western society?
Well, I think men have more advantages in marriage than women do, actually.
Okay.
Besides the fact that all men obviously complain about having to, provide financially, and she's also working now, so why shouldn't she provide as well? That's a whole
Right.
other subject, how to deal with your finances nowadays, because that has changed. It's inevitable. You can't just say that a man has to pay for everything if a woman is working as well, right? So
Right.
to touch that subject very lightly, I think that both couples should have a joint bank account in which they add money, both of them, from which they pay, I don't know what, household needs,
Right.
mortgages, etc. And each should also have their own bank accounts, because women also
Absolutely.
work and do with her money. If she wants to do her nails, whatever, it shouldn't be an issue that he has to pay for that, right?
No,
So
I absolutely agree.
yeah, I thank you. I'm so happy you agree, because that's also a sensitive subject that it's hard to talk about without people being very reactive.
Uh,
So yeah, I think that men are better off in a marriage, because a man needs structure in his life. A man
right.
is a creature of habit. A man feels good when he has a woman who puts a plate of warm food on the table when he comes home after a long day at work. A man struggles out there in society. Men go through a lot all alone. They have to prove themselves. They have to constantly get better. They have to
Right.
be in competition with all these other men out there, and also with themselves. They have to kind of quietly find their path in this world and be on a mission to become the man they believe they should be. Women, we are very loud, right? We complain, we talk. We have so many people around us who are our support system. We have our
Right.
girlfriends, our family members. We're not ashamed to talk about how we feel, and we also expect others to listen to us. So a man actually is very has to rely, very much on his wife or on his partner as a support system. If a man is all alone, if he's single, there's nobody to wait for him at home. His house will probably look like, probably in the fridge, he has, like, I don't know what, a whiskey bottle that doesn't go in the fridge. Anyway, he probably has, one lemon that's left over. It's
Right.
hard for
And
a
a
man to
beer.
do everything. Women thrive when they're single. This is also recent research now, that women thrive when they're single, because they do whatever they want. They don't need
Right.
to take care for anybody. And nowadays, women have all the freedom to live exactly like men live. They have their financial freedom, so they do whatever they want. When women are in a marriage, they're not so happy always because they have
Right.
the extra burden of this man they have to take care of. And this is sad. It shouldn't be like that. But this
Is
is
that why
what I'm
we're
telling you is from research.
right? So is that why you think we're having more divorces after the children leave the house, or that you see people getting divorced like I have a few friends. I mean, they are in their mid 50s, early 60s, and they getting divorced after like 30 years of marriage,
I know.
24 years of marriage, which to me is that, look, I always tell people there's a point of no return.
Yeah,
And so if you made it 30 years, I'm sorry. And
it's
yeah,
ridiculous.
and you have they're trying to arguing over trying to split 30 years or 40 years of resources, which is just maddening to me. And you brought up the term complaining. And so I think there's where a lot of confusion comes in on both sides. It's like, the worst thing I've ever heard, and I disagree with this term, but they always say happy wife, happy life. What I always said is whoever came up there needs to be slapped around. What needs to be had said was, she has her dynamics, and you need to make sure you understand when they're complaining, they're not complaining. They just want things done a certain way. And so
Yeah,
like
but you can't understand a woman because she doesn't even understand herself. Because women have hormones, so there's a lot going on, and women are extremely emotional, not just because of the hormones, but in general, we are.
right,
So if she wants something on Monday, maybe next Monday she doesn't want it anymore. She doesn't even know how to explain it herself. That's the issue with women. But she wants her man to understand her. But I think that many divorces happen after these 30 years of having been together, like you said, because it's still nowadays, some things never change, still nowadays,
right,
when a couple gets married, the man knows that he has the responsibility for the wife and the future kids. The
right.
woman doesn't feel the same. The woman always thinks that she has the responsibility for herself and her kids. She
Yeah, but
doesn't
what
feel
is that?
responsible for him. Yeah, that's something that's really sad, because that's one of the reasons why women actually don't understand how to behave in a relationship, how to treat a man. Because the new societies, right, the younger generations, and also these people who are like in their 50s right now,
Right,
these are also still new generations, if you want to believe it or not. Because the people who are older than 50 something were still from parents who actually showed these very clear role models.
right.
Once women started to work in the early 70s, late 60s, everything started to change. So nowadays, women literally don't know even how to treat themselves in a relationship. We are very good at being happy by ourselves because we also copy paste what other women do, but we cannot
Right.
sustain a relationship with a man because we don't want to do the work long term.
Right. So you covered a piece about giving yourself to a man, and then the here's the complex piece of that is when women are told, like, be academic, go get your degree, then go out and get a job, become independent of a man, because back in the day women were codependent on the men. But the thing is, they miss the surface part, is women didn't have credit, women didn't have debt, women had a lot of parameters on them that men didn't have. So now that they've assumed that debt, they've assumed a very masculine role. So yet you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you have all these women complaining about, well, where are the men at? Why can't I find a partner? So the thing is, I mean, you've restricted yourself to a lifestyle from 18 to 35 that was not conducive to the dating market. Because to me, the dating market and the workforce of a woman striving to be independent, they're not equal. There's some confusion, and sadly women are hitting 35, 30 something, and then they want to start a family, but they don't have valid partners. And it seems like there's a struggle out there for that, because they've restricted themselves for a period of time before they decide they want to be with a man, long term.
Yeah, I think there's a very big problem that's not being addressed enough. I think that women, we are very good at, educating ourselves. We're very good at finding a good job, making money. We're very good at focusing on ourselves, right?
Yeah,
But as soon
it's
as,
a women's world.
yeah, exactly. Women rule nowadays, although some women don't believe it, but it's true. So when this woman decides that she wants to settle down and she's around 35 and her, biological clock starts ticking, it's difficult for her to find a man because not because there are not good men out there, but because
Right.
of the way she has developed herself. She is so tuned into her masculine energy, fight flight mode, that she doesn't know anymore how to be a submissive woman. Most men, any man, even in modern society, likes it when a woman looks up to him. He likes it to feel this hero effect, that he is useful in her life, that he does
Right.
something for her that she cannot do herself. So if a woman shows up with all these, expectations we have nowadays, that he has to have, more money than we have, he has to
Right.
understand us, has to be emotionally, secure with himself, he has to know how to dress, he has to know so many things nowadays as a man, that it's hard for a man to be all that when you yourself are not this woman that kind of man imagines next to him.
Wow. But all right, that's a lot to unpack because
Yeah, I'm
the,
sorry, but this is really a big issue.
no,
And
and yes,
because if you want to attract that kind of man that you want, right, with this whole list, then you have to be that kind of woman who that kind of man wants. And that's a woman who has a nurturing side. That's a woman who likes to take care of him. But that's also a woman who's still independent because men like that. They
right.
like this feeling that this woman is authentic, is herself. She's not this needy girl who depends completely on him
Oh
with her
man.
happiness. If he doesn't do something that she thought he was going to do, she's going to complain and be unhappy. And
But as a
this is the second issue. So the first
that's
is,
right.
sorry to interrupt you. The first issue
You're
is that
good.
that I just mentioned. And the second issue is that we are so independent as women, right? We've accomplished so much financially, emotionally, mentally. But as soon as we enter a serious relationship, we make this man our priority. We change. I see women in front of me change completely. And I used to be like that too. That's why I know it from firsthand. My
Yeah, but you had
happiness would
to
also be dependent on that man because I gave him that position. I
right.
gave him that invisible task, let's say. And that's a huge mistake we women make because men don't have a relationship as a priority. Men have their self development as a priority, their
Right.
mission in life to become this man they can be proud of themselves. But women put a relationship as a main priority. And this
Yeah,
is good but bad as well because you shouldn't make your own happiness dependent on what this man does or doesn't do because then you will always
wow.
be disappointed.
All right, so
And it's that I can sign it on a paper for you that you will divorce because a man will always disappoint you
yeah,
because
that's
boys
true.
will be boys. That's it.
Yeah, they're not going to meet the expectations. So, all right. So I got first one, and then I'll move on to my second. But first
Yeah.
point is I think some of the damage for women in the modern era is the fathers. Okay, so most fathers want their daughters, if their fathers are in their lives, to be with someone of character, high standing, good moral compass. I think that some of the struggles that we have today is that even fathers put a list to their daughters on things that their requirements for guys that they want to see go out their daughters. I mean, and I say this all the time because we have so many kids in America that are raised by single mothers. So that's a whole nother topic me and you will touch on another time.
I love
But
that because
yeah,
that
but it
is
has,
very accurate.
yeah. So in America, that whole group, and I'm going to just segregate that group from this conversation right now. that's a whole nother catechism of problems or issues. But those that the girls that do have fathers in their lives, what I've seen is the fathers there's a massive rebellion towards their fathers, trying to get them to see that they're not dating good men, or that they could do better as in their selection. Not always saying that it's a good or bad, because no, dads aren't going to like anybody you date, but overall, they still, in the end, the daughter's going to make a decision, and you just want to hope that they make a decision with a person that's got a future. And as a man, and you said this, men have to strive to build a future, but that's driven because when we grow up, we see the guy with the money, with the car, with the house. He has the Bo Derek. He has the 10. He has the model. He has the Victoria's Secret model. And then you see the guys that are barely striving, not putting a lot of emphasis in. They're just settling, or they're alone. And so and for men, it's a hard decision, because you're talking about trying to date in a very complex environment now, where women are on Instagram, TikTok, and they're bombarded with, hey, this is the laundry list a guy's supposed to have. And then when you talk about trying to fall in love, how do you fall in love trying to check off that list? Because that's a lot of stuff to check off to find some guy that fits that model, Yeah,
I think that when you start off with all these expectations, you don't understand exactly what love is about. Of course, a woman will always want to feel safe, right? I don't think a woman on the planet who will choose a man who has nothing over a man who has something, right?
Right.
Let's be honest. For a woman, it's very important that a man has something, that she can be hopeful, that they can build on a future together, because a woman usually wants to have kids as well. And even if she doesn't want to have kids, the thought of having to struggle financially for the rest of your life if you choose this man is very scary for a woman. That's how women are.
Right.
So
And it's the number one divorce thing. I mean, finances are number one reason people get divorced. But yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Everybody thinks it's infidelity, but it's finances. That's why
It's
people
money.
divorce. Yeah, it's money. Because nowadays, it's not just that life has become more expensive. We as humans, we have so many more expectations from what we want in our lives. We don't only see this on the internet, but for example, when I grew up, when I was a kid, toys were very cheap. I had one doll and, a few other things. Nowadays, kids want to have a mobile phone. They want to have a laptop. They want to have all these advanced toys that cost a lot of money. So nowadays, to have a child and to give it what you as a parent think this kid should have costs you a whole lot more than it used to be. We've become more complicated in what we expect because, we are so spoiled nowadays. We can just hop on an airplane and fly to where I can fly to you are today if I want to,
You want to, right.
And I can even make phone calls on the flight and be on my laptop and do my work. So I don't think in general that people appreciate what we actually have. And that includes women a lot. And the internet doesn't help. That's true. But women have lost a little bit what it should be about, It should be about this feeling of safety, should be about how the man is, and not about what he can do for you. That's where we got it wrong.
But they were taught at some point during the 90s and late 80s, 90s that if a man don't date no broke man, if a man can't buy you a bag, don't be with him. And all these messages just have accumulated. But the thing I see is the women haven't made the adjustment, so they're not meeting any requirements that men want. And and I always jokingly say that when a man has preferences, it's discrimination against women. But when women have preferences against men, it's just preferences against men. It's not discrimination. And that's our society's kind of twisted in that relationship thing, because even dynamics of people are dating. You look at the requirements, and there was a great TikTok where they asked the girl, said, "What do you have in your bank account?" Oh, she says, oh, I got $27,000 in my bank account, or $72,000 in my bank account because my dad gave it to me. And then her boyfriend's standing there and they ask him, what do you got in your bank account? He goes, well, I got $4,000. He said, but if you have $72,000 and we just went out to dinner, why? He goes, I always take you out. Why didn't you just pick the tab up this time? She goes, because it's not my responsibility. My money's my money, and then your money is my money, as you know, because we're in a relationship. So that's the mindset young men are battling with, and this is not old people. Young men are battling with today.
It's true, and unfortunately, depression under young men is up there, is rising. You know, it's very difficult for young men, and it's also who made this rule. You know, women did. Like, my money is my money, and your money is my money too. It doesn't make any sense when you think of it. I mean, I very much believe in, you know, role models, you know, and to have a certain role as a person in a relationship, and not to be everything in a relationship, and not to want everything. But I do believe in having a fair relationship. You know, things should be honest. It can't be equal, but you cannot just want to hang on to everything that's yours and you don't want to give anything. The dating thing is an issue, because when you go out on a date with a man and he pays for the dinner or the drinks, it's more of a symbolic move that he makes, that he shows this woman that he is a responsible person, that he can take care of her, let's say. But the other bills, you know, if they share a home or whatever, I do believe that a woman should, if she can, and she, you know, even has money because she works or her father gave it to her, I think it's fair that she adds, you know, that she also pays for things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Add some value to it. Because this is what I saw with my mom and my stepdad, which I thought was cool. So my stepdad would cover every bill in the house, like the car payments, everything. What my mom would cover was groceries. She would cover anything the kids needed, she would cover. So they never got in an argument over money, because he would cover the big bills and she would cover all the other things in between. And so it's weird as now that I see that dynamic of seeing women say, okay, this guy wants me to be at home. I'm cooking. I don't work. He goes to work. He paying all the bills, and he comes home and the house is a mess. Nothing's happening. And then they go on social media and post these videos of like, he wants me to clean up the house like I'm his slave. He wants me to do this. And I've
seen that. Yeah.
I'm like, where do you get that mindset that if this person went off to work every day and they're paying all the bills in the house, what part do you not reciprocate to ensure that he comes home and that it just at least the house is clean? Because some people just don't, their grandparents didn't teach them to cook. I got it. But 90% of this, I mean, I'd say about 70% of this generation, their biggest problem is they eat out all the time. So they have no social skills as couples because they DoorDash everything. They don't, you know.
Yeah, I always say that you should never not date each other anymore, right? But dating can also be done indoors. You know, you can do a date night indoors and cook together, or the woman can cook for her man as a nice gesture. But you know, when you speak about those videos, I've seen them as well, you know, but women would say, oh, why does he want me to do all those things? I'm not his slave. But that's exactly one of the reasons why so many women, my clients, I have many clients who are looking for a man. But what do you expect when you give off this image all the time that you are this, you know, bad bitch who does everything by herself? It's intimidating, to say the least, for men, right? It doesn't encourage a man to want to take care of you. It doesn't give him this hero feeling.
And then arguing all the time, because back in my day when I was actually in my dating realms, I dated somebody that was very rich and didn't need no money from anybody, had everything. But I was exhausted as a human being, because every conversation would seem like there was, if I said blue, it's green, or if it's green, it's blue. And it got to the point where I realized, and one of my friends asked me years later, he goes, why didn't you ever marry that person? Why didn't you? I said, the exhaustion of having discussions. I said, if you can't sit down and say, hey, this movie was really good, you know, and this character did really well, and that person comes back and goes, well, you know, I didn't like this. I did, you know, I said, and sadly, I thought it was just that situation. And then I started talking to my other friends who were later down and, dating. And it was like everybody was going through the same thing. Is why do you compete with your spouse or you compete with your partner? I didn't understand what has caused that dynamic. And hey guys, y'all need to get out there and get Esther's book, because I'm telling you, she dives down into a little bit of this. Is why are you competing with the person you're supposed to love? Which I'm still struggling trying to understand why people do that.
Yeah, that's because we women have hyped each other up so much. You see, it's almost shameful as a woman if you say to another woman that you really need a man in your life, because it makes you feel better to have a man next to you. It makes you feel protected. Every other woman, if you're with a company out, let's say, and you're having dinner together with only women,
Right.
They will be like, what are you talking about? You don't need a man, girl. We have each other, and it's ridiculous that if you are, let's say, talking like a bit old school, in an old school version, women will attack you. That's why I said in the beginning of our talk today that sometimes it's really, very difficult for me to say it as it is, because women attack me. Because they're like, what are you talking about? We've moved on, girl. We're not living in those days anymore. But,
okay, good point. Good point. Hold on, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but good. I want to stay on that point. So good point, because I went through some of your feeds of your post, and then women being very snarky or hostile back towards you, and just with negative comments. And this is the funny thing about it: if men were berating you or giving you negative comments, they would just get destroyed. But it's to me, it's like a trigger point that women have no problem attacking another woman is supposedly trying to give good advice on helping people fix their relationship. So why do you think that is? I mean,
that's because of this feminism, now it's like, we can't go back. We have to keep this up. We have to keep the face up of, we are independent, we're strong, we're bad bitches, we are all these expressions we have nowadays. This didn't exist 20 years ago. Bad bitch, what does that mean? So I don't need anybody. I don't need a man. I can do it all alone. I can have kids by myself. I can go to the sperm bank, and buy some sperm. It's like we are so aggressive that we are pushing men away. There are obviously also a lot of women who do follow my advice and who do send me wonderful messages or emails that since they've been following my advice, their whole relationship turned around and now they get it, or they found a man or whatever. So, but there are also still many women. On one post that I made about what a man needs when he comes home.
I saw that post. I think it had like 1.5 million views or something. So
no, it has 11.2 million views actually by now on Instagram alone. Yes,
it triggered everybody.
If you read the comments, like, I work too, I also want my piece. And I understand, right? We women are reactive in general, but you have to see through what I'm actually saying. What I mean to say is that the most important thing, if you want to be selfish, let's say, as a woman in a relationship, you want something from this man. The best way to get it is to give that man space and peace of mind, because then a man is way more, willing to give. If you bombard him as soon as he walks in the house with all kinds of problems and issues and why he didn't do this and why he didn't do that and you need more money and I don't know what, a man is going to, freeze. He's going to feel emasculated. So it's actually not smart to be so reactive as a woman on these kind of posts, because at the end of the day, you lose as a woman.
And so why is it so hard to get committed to marriage? Because that's the piece that you covered, and I see it on your TikTok and on Instagram, is so why is it so hard now for people to commit to marriage? Everybody now is like, and I'll give a great example. So I hope my oldest daughter doesn't beat me up too bad. So forever she was dating. They lived together. They dated forever. And I was like, are you two ever going to get married? Are you two ever going to do anything else? And then she was like, well, Dad, we don't need to get married. This new generation. Then out of the blue one day, she goes, hey, Dad, we went down to the courthouse, got married, and then we're going to do a wedding and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, What got into you? And it's funny is like she just kind of transformed from this hardcore feminist to this mother now with 2 kids. Just and it's funny is I don't think she sees the evolution of it because she's living in within herself. But I see it from the outside, and I'm so proud of her. But I saw that the fact is I look at their generation and their fear of the word marriage or their fear of commitment in general is kind of crazy, but then a lot of it's being driven by social media influencers with bad advice, and a lot of divorced women getting on internet giving advice. And so it's one of those things I just kind of, without a degree in psychology, and they listen to these people. So that influence is having a problem on anybody having any future kids in this world.
It's interesting that you mentioned this about your daughter, because the truth is that 90% of women have as a mission in their lives to get married. Women want to get married. Yes. That's all women want to get married. All my clients want to get married if they're not married already. All women want to marry because they even more now than ever. Because although we might scream off the rooftops, we don't need a man and all that, that's only because we haven't found this guy who's so amazing, you know? Because we don't want to do the work to get this guy.
Right.
We don't want to do the work. It's very simple. It's hard to do the work because you have to study man a little bit, you know? You have to be a little bit vulnerable. Yeah.
Okay, so why is it that all of a sudden, and and this is a big movement on social media, and you kind of cover different things in your book on this, is why is there a push now for women that are like over 55? I'd say a 55, almost a 70 now, looking for partners. Even, you know, they got divorced and they've been single forever. And I know several. My stepmom was with my dad was that when she divorced him, she never dated again. And so then, you know, before she passed away, she's like, man, I wish I had kind of got remarried or done something. So the question is, why now on social media, these women are posting this stuff that, you know, they would like to, you know, find somebody because, you know, they're single now, their kids are out of the house and it's just them. And so why are they going through this evolution from 39 to 55? I don't need nobody. And then all of a sudden there's a shift in mindset. Is it because of economics or is it just because they're lonely? I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. Make your mind up, you know?
Yeah, as hardcore as these new movements are, that are also especially in Asian countries where there are all groups of young girls who decide to live together and to never get married and to erase men from their lives and all that. It's very true that, you know, in life you change. When you're 18, you're a rebel. You want to go against, you know, the rules and everything. And you want to take the easy way out. The easy way out is not to bother even about men, you know, because that means that you have to adjust and adapt and you have to go through a whole process of learning also about how to be in a relationship, how to treat a man. But when you're 50 or 55 or 60, you look at the rest of your life and you wonder, okay, is this it? You know, you miss company because people are older. I see this with everybody. They value company way more than when they're younger and they're still in their self-development and they're super selfish because they want everything nowadays, you know, and young people believe they can have everything they want because society has taught them that. When you get a bit older, you've been there, done there, and you've been through pain and you want somebody to just be there for you, you know? And the truth is that when you are in a relationship that has a certain quality, and I don't mean money, I mean quality from that you fit together, the truth is that creates more life. That makes your life, the chances of you living longer are higher than when you are alone.
Well, they state that is the study. I'm going to support that because I read a study that men that are married in relationships live longer than when they're by themselves. Now, women that are by themselves live longer without, you know, being with a partner, supposedly. But they said, but there are a lot of that reason is because normally their partner either passed away or this or that. But they said, but men actually thrive throughout their lives if they're in a relationship. with a
That's
female,
what I
with a
told you
partner.
in the beginning. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a
So
man needs a support system, and that's usually his partner.
So even though they have kids, this is the ironic thing is, why are so many women, and this is a good segue into, why are so many women, when they see one of their peers, so like in the office, you got a peer that's married, and she's got her husband's at every event supporting her, and then you have the woman that doesn't have a partner. Why is it that there's always a sabotage thing between women to cause disruption in other people's lives? And and there people are posting and talking about that now, is that if you got friends, you need to make sure you got the right friends around you if you're married, and this and that. So why is it such a thing with women? See, because I don't never see guys do that. Like if one of my friends is married, is some beautiful woman, all the other guys go, man, he got lucky, he got a beautiful woman, unless you got a guy in the group that's just a snake. But overall, we try not to have those in our circle. But with women, it's really weird, is when they see someone that has a really decent relationship, they'll compliment it, but they sometimes have like some anger against their own friend or jealousy because that person's in that relationship. Why is it just, why does that happen?
Yeah, not sometimes, most of the times. Because
I was trying to be nice.
Yeah,
I was trying to be nice.
Because we women are super competitive when it comes to our looks, because we know that men are visual beings. So for men
100%.
looks, so for men looks and the way a woman moves and the way she is, the way she presents herself, is very important. Men compete more, I think, about when it comes to money, right? Because a man identifies his value more with how much money he has, or
Status
how
and
much
money.
wealth. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Status
Absolutely.
comes for a man with the woman next to him, right?
That's right.
Elevates his status. So a man will obviously try to choose the best partner he thinks will elevate his status. So when a woman sees a nice couple who are really wonderful together, her first thoughts will mostly be of envy, because because she will be jealous of that woman. And the woman who is in the relationship is also not jealous, but she's very careful with the single woman, because she is afraid that this single woman will try to seduce her man, because we women don't trust each other at all.
All right. Yeah. And
it's very rare. It's very rare that you see a woman who from the heart can say how happy she is for that couple and will never ever flirt with that married man.
Right.
If she is single herself. I've seen crazy things. That's why I'm telling you this.
Well, see, so first, let me cover this real quick. Hey guys, Esther's spot on. And we've always said this: never date someone that can't elevate you where you're going to go as a man. So whoever you have as a partner or as a spouse, wife, you should always have someone on your side that's going to actually help you elevate, especially like if you go to dinners or you go to social gatherings, you want that person to be value added. And same vice versa. When you go somewhere with them, you want to be value added. You want to be the envy of that person's existence. So with that being said, we go into the next part of when you said that, people, why do more people chase? I be at the gym and I see this: men are married and they get more attention than guys that are in the gym that are single. And it blows my mind. I don't understand why some married men, they go in the gym, they're staying in shape, working out, and these younger females know these guys are married. They got their ring on, and they still go out the way to speak to them or say something to them. So, what is going, look at Bill Belichick, 72 years old, got a 23-year-old girlfriend. I'm just blown away by all these older men dating 20 and 30-year-old women, and these guys are in their 60s and 70s. So what is going on now?
Yeah, first of all, the category of men who actually cheat the most are men who are older than 60. I think that has to do, I never knew this myself. I read this whole research thing about it and I was blown away. I think this has to do with the fact that men it's more difficult for men to deal with death. So when a man is 60 or above, he realizes, because men have logical minds, how many more years do I have to live?
20. I got 20 years to go.
Maybe 30, you don't know. Maybe 40 even, right? But it could also be 5 or 10.
Right.
So since you don't know, and since men have a logical mind, they panic. And if
Yes.
they've been married for 20, 30 years, they will probably, if this young chick at the gym gives them a little bit of attention, like a fool, fall for it. They
Yes.
will.
You see it a lot.
The
You see it
other
a
the
lot.
other thing with men in general is that it's also been proven that in general, men, if you sit at a bar and a woman comes on to you, most men will fall for it. It's different for
Yes.
women. If a woman sits at a bar and a man will approach her, if she doesn't feel an emotional connection with him, if she hasn't talked to him for like 4 or 5 hours for that evening and had several
Right.
drinks and feels connected and whatever, she will never sleep with him.
The
But for
ick.
men, it's
The
different.
ick.
If a woman gives
Right.
you attention, you're like, oh my God, she's crazy about me, and you will jump in, right?
Yeah,
So,
and
and these
especially if they're
other men,
attractive.
yeah, and these other men who are, let's say, married at the gym and then are older and they leave their wives for these younger chicks, they literally believe in their subconscious mind or in their conscious mind that this young girl will extend their life because this young girl gives them oxygen, gives them the
So
feeling of being empowered.
vitality, right? Oh yeah. But it's all mental. It's all mental. You know,
Yes, it
it's
is.
mental gymnastics. And so I just see the deterioration a lot of, but also the younger generation of men aren't pursuing economic wealth. As there's a small percentage, but a majority, when you look at the overall base, they're not pursuing economic wealth like our generation had to
Of
pursue
course.
it. So for many women that are looking for partners, I think that's becoming a problem, is because when you're looking for a suitable partner, you're not just looking for a rich guy. You're looking for somebody that can protect you, kind of help sustain a household. And then when you don't have that, you take that off the table, some of those parameters off the table, then you're going to look to an older person because they've already they got a finished product. I just got to move in and then there it is because it's already done. The wealth is there. I can go get my nails done. I can get my hair done. And most of the time when younger women marry older men, a lot of times if you go down to Miami, I don't think any of them are working. I don't think any of them young girls are working married to them 40 and 50-year-old men down there. But that's my disclaimer. I have no facts on this.
Look, yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I see this too, not just in Miami. I see this also in other places. Look, yeah, many young girls, they want to take the easy way out. You know, it's easier to marry somebody who's way older than you are. He gives you the financial safety. And even if he passes in 10, 20 years, you'll still be young. You know,
Right.
there are many girls who choose wealth above, love. And that's actually very sad, you know. Um,
But hold
I don't
on,
know.
but historically, um, I think this was kind of forced on women because during the monarch years, most fathers back in the 1800s, 1700s, 15th century, all those different times, they made an emphasis, if your daughter was beautiful, to marry wealthy. So I think it's just evolved into some other kind of thing in the 21st century. But backstory is that's kind of always been there in the background, in the unconscious, but in the unconscious. But consciously, it happens real time on a regular basis in America.
Yeah, and it's I'm very sad for young men because when you're a young man nowadays, to become wealthy is so much. On one hand, it's easier because there are all these new jobs and every
Right,
day new jobs are being created through the internet, right? But on the other
right,
hand, it is so hard if you are not anybody special, if you don't have any special knowledge, you don't come from a family who gives you, let's say, a base to work with, it's extremely
right.
hard. It's a struggle. And you know that it will most likely take you a very long time because I remember my father used to tell me that in his days, it was normal that you would take a job and you would grow in this job, in this maybe the same company, right?
Tear it up.
Things would,
Yep, go up
yes.
through the
And
tears.
at the
Right,
end, you would have the possibility to become the director of this company and to have a house and a car and, go on summer vacations. Nowadays, if you want to buy a house anywhere in a decent place, You know, you need so much more money than then, right?
Right.
So I think that, yeah, the prospects for young men, and also seeing all these young girls who are 20 something and they have like 10 Hermes bags and, you know, jewelry, and they travel all over the world. It's extremely
Wow.
intimidating, you know?
Yeah.
And through
And
OnlyFans, you also don't know exactly where all this money
right.
comes from with these young girls, you know?
Oh, yeah, but the thing is, me and my daughter, yeah, my 20-year-old daughter had this conversation one day, and this was the best one. She made some off the wall comment, and I stopped her. I said, "Is there a men's night at the club downtown in Ybor when you go down there? Do they have men's night?" She goes, "Why would they have men's night?" Exactly. I said, "They have ladies' night." I said, "Do you have to pay to get in?" Nope. I said, "Do you get free drinks?" Yep. I said, "So let me get this right. You go show up to a club and you get in for free." Yeah. I said, "Then you can go sit at the bar and get a drink." Right. I said, "Now," and my youngest daughter, she's kind of cute. I said, "How many times have you been invited by the professional athletes to the VIP section of the club?" "Oh, Jad, why you got to go there?" "How many times?" "Oh, like every time I go to clubs, I always get asked to go to the VIP room and hang out." Okay, so now let me get this right. You literally walk in the club, get in for free, get free drinks, then you're standing there, and because you're pretty, guys just invite you to the VIP club, and you guys get to hang out in there and dance in the club where all the professional athletes are, and then you guys come home, and you had a whole evening of free food and everything out of the VIP room. Yeah, that doesn't happen for men.
That's very true. And I think that used to be kind of the same in the older days. When a girl was pretty, she would have advantages in front of other girls, for sure. Now I also see this in Dubai with these restaurants that they send
Yes.
messages to women to invite them for free if they take a man with them. So it becomes, yeah, things are changing.
Hey, look, pretty privilege is always going to be there. Everybody can sit there and say our society's not driven by it, but pretty privilege does exist, and for men and women. Because I have friends. I know that I got friends that are handsome, and they definitely get concessions when we travel to Europe that other people don't get because they're handsome guys. So if we get back on real quick, hey guys, I want to make sure before me and Esther get out of here, but I want to make sure you guys cover it. Make sure you get a copy of her book. It'll be posted down in the link below. But before I go out here, Esther, here's the biggest deal. If
Yeah.
today, for young men in this complex environment that we live in, what is the best way for them to navigate a relationship? Because men don't ask women out anymore because they're worried about the ick or they're worried about being creepy. So nowadays, guys, I see it, young guys will literally look at another female and think she's beautiful, but they will never, ever approach that female. So what advice are you giving the women that are contacting you? And I know you got some men, people you advise, but the women that contact you, what advice are you giving them? Because they're going, I don't understand. I live in New York. Nobody approaches me. I'm beautiful. Nobody approaches me. There's a reason. We've set conditions where men are terrified to approach women. So how are they finding, your clients finding relationships because men don't want to approach them?
Well, when they listen to me, they find a relationship. Because the truth is, yeah, a man won't. I'm so sorry. It's harsh. A man won't approach you. Yeah, it's brutal. I'm sorry. A man won't approach you. The only reason why a man won't approach you is because he is afraid you might say no. And that has to do with the way you present yourself to the world. Because a man will always try to get a woman of whom he thinks that he's able to get her, right? Because his ego is very important, and he's hurt
Right.
if a woman will turn him down. So if he sees a gorgeous woman who wears very expensive clothes and wears expensive jewelry and has an attitude and is out with the girls and has this bad bitch attitude, it's way harder for a man to approach that woman because
Right.
her whole aura is of aggression around her.
Right.
So I think, I'm not saying that as a woman you should dress down or anything, right? Like you should be very simple because otherwise nobody will approach you. But the
Right.
truth is that the more average looking, let's say, girls are mostly approached. And these
Right.
gorgeous models, only a guy who's very wealthy will approach her. or a guy who's
Right.
older and is more confident. But a guy who's at her same age level will feel intimidated. The other thing that we women have made a mistake is with all this, effort to be independent and to be, self-sufficient and all that.
That's right.
The way we treat men has become aggressive. So if a guy approaches you, what women do is we roll our eyes, we look the other way, or we're like, oh my God, really?
You came up and talked
We
to me?
insult,
How
yeah,
dare
we
you?
insult man. It's insulting. So I always tell my clients, can you imagine that you would approach a man and a man would be like that with you? Wouldn't you be mortified? Because it's not human to be like that with another man. And why we do that as women is because, again, as a woman, you want to show to other women what a bad bitch you are. Because otherwise, if you're just nice and kind, let's say, kind is the most
Right.
important, then you look weak as a woman,
Right.
So I
Right.
think women should imagine a little bit more like how it actually is for a man to approach you, because it's not so simple for a guy. You can't ask for a light anymore. Nobody smokes. You can't ask what time it is. Everybody has their phone on them.
That's
You
right.
can't ask for
That's right.
directions. You have a GPS. So how do you approach a woman? You can't tell her anymore, like, do I know you from somewhere? So for men, it's extremely hard
That is true.
to approach a woman and be cool about it, and then women, the way they react, it's offensive. So
Right. And
women
people don't
should
send
tone
drinks
it
no
down
more
a
either.
bit.
Right. And men
Sorry?
don't send drinks. Men don't send drinks anymore. So
No,
there's that. So that doesn't happen. So you're right. There are actually gap stops to where we used to be able to start a conversation. They don't exist anymore. So
it's
now people have to
actually,
be inventive.
yeah, and
Snapchat, you got your Snapchat?
yeah, and it's actually very simple, and most women don't realize, and they also don't do it, is that, let's say you're at a club or a bar or wherever you are, and you know that a guy has spotted you, because women know that. Instead
Right.
of playing arrogant and ignorant, and you play with your phone or you throw your hair around or whatever,
Love it.
just
Love it.
give him a look and smile. If you smile for like even 1 second, which is long, that man gets a certain clue, and it encourages him, it gives him a bit of hope,
Right.
that, okay, there's something there. I think that's very important. Men fall for women who smile, right? We want the guy to be a bit aggressive, right? We don't
Right.
want the guy who's all soft and smiling at us. But when
Right.
we smile at a man, we give a direct message. And I
That you're
think that most
approachable.
women don't realize that.
No, you're absolutely right. That means you're approachable.
Yes,
So everybody just remember hey, young men out there, never be afraid to shoot your shot to talk to a young lady at any opportunity. And what I learned a long time ago, if you read a lot of documentaries, very attractive women have very few men talk to them because people assume that they are already dating someone, and that's not always the case. On the flip side of that is, make sure you find somebody that's genuine. And if you get Esther's book and dive into it and really read into it, it actually tells you how to communicate. It actually tells you how to approach people. But also at the end of the day, you got to constantly, and this is one important point she puts in her book, you always got to be working on yourself. You always got to make yourself a better version of yourself. And with that being said, Esther, before I got to hear, what advice do you have for anybody out there that wants to get in contact with you? How do they get in contact with you?
well, they can DM me on Instagram. They can email me. I have my email also on Instagram. They can send me a message on TikTok if there's still TikTok. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
easiest.
that's like next week.
Yes, exactly. The easiest way is to connect with me on Instagram. I have my webpage there. I have the direct link of how to buy my book on Instagram. And you can just DM me if you want to.
And guys, and she will respond and send you a note. And so one thing is, book a session. If you're looking for love, get with Esther so she can help you out. So you get the right person, not the wrong person, because if you get the wrong person, there's always a price to be paid at the end. And with that being said, as I always say, Esther, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. I know you're in
Thank
Greece and
you.
you're enjoying the weather. And we'll say
Thank
here,
you for having me.
you're welcome. Keep it rolling, guys.